Alright guys, welcome back to this series. In this video we are going to look at the marquee tools inside Photoshop. Alright, so let's get started. So here open inside Photoshop, you can see that if we go to the toolbar on the left, we can see the first tool here. It says elliptical marquee tool and it has a keyboard shortcut assigned to it, which is M. So if we click for a moment, you can see that we have the elliptical, the rectangular and the single row marquee tool, as well as the single column marquee tool. I'm going to explain what they do, all of them. So notice that they share the same shortcut. All right, so just like the lasso tool we did the other day, if you press the M key, you select the first marquee tool that is here. Then if you need to cycle to maybe the rectangular marquee tool, you can hold down the shift key together with the M key. All right, so if you hold shift and M, you cycle between those two rectangular and elliptical marquee tools, just like so. So right now let's assume that the elliptical marquee tool is selected. You then have some options on the options bar. Notice that all these options also apply when any of these other tools here is selected. So with the elliptical marquee tool selected, let us start by seeing what these options here on the option bar all mean. So what I can do now is to make sure I'm in my normal mode, and then I can click on the screen to draw. Alright, as simple as that. If you hold down the space bar, you can reposition that drawing like so. Now what can I do with this circle? I can select the brush tool and increase the size of my brush or reduce the size of my brush, and then I can paint on this selection like so. Okay, now to deselect the matching ants, I can press Ctrl D. You will see that the edges of this circle look really smooth. Let us select the marquee tool one more time, and this time let us increase the feather value to 3. And if we try to create another selection just like so, let's use the brush tool one more time to paint over that selection. And let's press Ctrl D to deselect. You can see that while this first selection has smooth edges, this second one does not. The edges are rather transitioning from that fading color into the black circle. Okay, that is what the feather value can do. So always remember, if you need to have smooth edges, you can increase the feather value right here. Alright, the next thing I need to explain is these options right here. Right now we are in the normal mode. Alright, so if I click here to draw, I can draw a circle just like so. And if I need to add to this existing selection, I can click the second button right here to add to this existing selection, and I can create a shape like so. Notice that it gets added to it. And the third button right here means you can subtract from the selection. For example, I can click right here, and when I let go, it is subtracted from that selection. And then the last option here means you can intersect this selection. So right now, if I click somewhere around here, you will notice only what is within this circle will be left. Everything that is outside the circle will be cut out. Okay, so let's let go and see. That is what we have on the screen. All these options, they apply even if you have the rectangular marquee tool, the single row or the single column marquee tool. They all apply, they do the same thing. Alright, so what can we do with this selection? We can press B to access the brush tool and paint over it just like so. Okay, notice that with the feather option, we are able to have these smooth edges right here. Let us now switch to this moon image so I can use it to explain what the last tools here they do, the single row and the single column marquee tool. So right now we are looking at this image on the screen. Look at the percentage right down here at the bottom left right here. It says 33%. That is the percentage at which we are currently looking at this image. Right now you cannot clearly see the pixels of the image. Okay, so if we zoom in like this, you can be able to see these individual pixels on the screen. I don't know if you can actually see because of this recording, but I wish you should. So we can clearly see that we have columns and rows. Okay, so if you choose the single row marquee tool, if you click here, you will see it is going to select this entire row of that particular image. Okay, so that is what that tool does, which I don't ever use, but you might find it very useful sometimes. Then if we select the single column marquee tool, it is going to do the opposite. Okay, if we now click here, it is going to select instead the vertical column just like so. Okay guys, so the single row marquee tool selects the rows of pixels in an image, and the single column marquee tool selects column of pixels in an image. Alright, so we zoom back out to full screen. I'm going to press Ctrl 0 or Command 0 if you are using the Mac. Right now we can clearly see. Alright, but if you are looking at this from this particular zoom level you will not be able to know what is going on. I only discovered this because I had to zoom in to see those individual pixels to actually see what it means. Alright guys, that's very nice. That's what those two tools do. So what next can we do? Let us go back to the rectangular marquee tool, and there is something here on this image which says professor, and you can see I have some text prepared in advance. So what can we do with the rectangular marquee tool? First, I'll make sure that the feather value here is 0, and what I can do here is change the whiteboard here to make it black so that the text I intend to place on should actually stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'll click somewhere around this portion of the image, and then I drag down like so. I can hold the space bar to reposition the movement as I do it. Alright, when I'm happy with the results, I can always release somewhere around here. Okay, now with my foreground color set to black, I can press the B key to switch to my brush tool and make sure the background image is selected, and I can even increase the size of my brush and paint over this selection just like so. Okay guys, very cool. You can selectively paint a given portion of an image just like so on the screen. Alright, what I intend to do next is to come over to the layers panel and enable this layer with the given text. Okay, now let us press Ctrl D to deselect that, and we can clearly see that the text stand out clearly because it is on a black board. Okay guys, very nice. That is one use case of the rectangular marquee tool, but there are way more things you can do other than this. Alright, let us now see one use case of the elliptical marquee tool as well. So I will come over here and select the elliptical marquee tool, and let us say I need to draw attention to a particular portion of this image. What I can do is to drag around that particular portion I need to create attention to, and then when I'm done, I release. Okay, now what can I do with this selection? Of course, I can go to select and then choose inverse, but another way to do it is by right clicking on the image and then choosing select inverse. Okay, if you do this, instead of selecting what you created on the screen, you will now select what was never selected in the first place. So to draw attention to this portion of the image, I can go to adjustment layers and then I choose brightness and contrast. Okay guys, now by default it comes in as a max. Okay, so if you have other layers which you are afraid that might get affected, you can always click on this clipping mask button to clip that selection. So right now what I can do is to take down the brightness. You can see that this affects the whole image that was never selected, okay, because we inverted that selection. And then I can increase or reduce the contrast to make that portion really stand out. This is really useful, especially when you intend to do annotation for social media and so on. You draw attention to a particular portion of an image. Alright guys, that's nice. So I'm going to delete this layer, and again, that is not all you can do. Let's do that selection again, just like so. What I can do is I can go to adjustment layers, and instead of brightness and contrast, I will add a hue and saturation adjustment layer this time. And since it is going to come in as a max, what I can do is to check this button and then just pick a different hue that can make this portion of the image stand out. Okay, just like so. I can even decrease the brightness, see, just like that. And now anybody looking at this image will know that my intention is to look at this particular portion of the image. Very cool. Let us switch back to the moon image and then try to use the elliptical marquee tool to cut this image from this background. Of course, it is very easy. There are other tools you can do, but this tutorial is mainly about the marquee tool, so this is a best case scenario for the marquee tool. So with the marquee tool selected, I'm first of all going to make sure that I have a feather value of just maybe 1, and then I'll click somewhere right here, okay, and start drawing down to trace that image just like so. Now if you do not get your selection right the first time, don't release the mouse just yet. You can hold the space bar and then carefully move to the portion on the top left, so that you can let go of the space bar, and then you can continue drawing down like so. Okay, just try to adjust it so that it should match the image. Alright, at this point I think it is nice, but you can always go inside that selection and then try to adjust it just like so. Okay guys, now when you are done, what I intend to do is to jump this selection onto another new layer. So I can press Ctrl Alt and J, okay, to jump that selection. Again, the reason why I pressed the Alt key is because I needed to rename the layer as I create it. So I'll just call this layer moon, and hit OK. And now if I hide the background image, we can see that it has been cut out with this black section right here, which doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do is to convert this into a smart object, and with my Marquee tool selected, what I can do is to right click on the image and choose duplicate layer. Now on the duplicate layer dialog box, I have two things. We have to duplicate as, which is the moon copy, yes, and then we need to choose the destination. The destination option right here means we should specify which document we intend to place this new copy on. Okay, so I need to place it on the dark.jpg right here, so I'll select it and choose dark and then say OK. Right now nothing happens, but if I switch to this image, here we go. You see the moon is right here, and because it came in as a smart object, I will not be afraid of losing any pixel. So what I can now do is to grab the move tool and then choose show transform handles to reduce the image just like so. Okay guys, very nice. Then I hit the check mark to confirm. What I can now do is to make sure that the moon layer is selected. Then I will go to my adjustment layer and then I can add hue and saturation. Okay, then to make sure that it doesn't affect the entire image or the entire document on the screen, I will just make sure I click on this button to clip it so that it affects just this particular moon layer. And what I can do now is to maybe colorize our moon to match the background just like so. Okay guys, very nice. You can now continue working on this image by adding different effects, compositing and doing whatever you like, but I think you get the general idea of the Marquee tools. Okay guys, so in a nutshell, always remember that the single row Marquee tool selects the rows of pixels in an image, and the single column Marquee tool selects a column of pixels on an image. Okay, and then the elliptical Marquee tool selects in circular form, and the rectangular Marquee tool selects in rectangular forms. Okay guys, and any tool you choose here on the screen, always remember to go to the options bar and check the mode you are drawing on, and also adjust the feather value. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching to the end. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so, as it gives me energy to keep creating this type of videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.